It's now over 30 years since the World Wide Web began, and in that time it has changed a lot. But so have we, and therefore so has its impact on our lives. As a basic example, we don't even call restaurants to book a table anymore. So I thought it would be nice to see just what has happened in those 30 years. We're starting in 1995 at the dawn of the internet, at least for most regular people. Back then there were around 20 million internet users worldwide. Today it's over 6 billion. Google didn't even exist, social media didn't exist, not even archive.org, so we don't even have a solid record of what was out there. But what did exist was the Trojan Room coffee pot. The very first webcam, a camera focused on a pot of coffee so that people at the University of Cambridge could see whether there was any fresh coffee in the pot. I made an entire video on it last year if you want to dive in. GeoCities also existed, allowing anyone to create their own website about anything. The internet was truly in its Wild West days, and honestly it was fantastic. Now this video is sponsored by Opera, who are also turning 30 this year, which makes this an unusually perfect fit, because they've recently built an online web rewind archive, starting in the glory days of dial-up and jumping through key artifacts in time. You can take a look yourself, but it perfectly visualizes just how many sites began popping up in the GeoCities era alone. People were expressing themselves online faster than the corporate world. But that wouldn't last for long. In '96, McDonald's went online. Terrifying. The Space Jam website also launched, the longest running website ever that still exists today, and Alta Vista gave many people their first experience of a search engine as the number of websites began to grow exponentially. The web really was a more interesting place back then. Whenever something arrived, like Men in Black or the X-Files, it would have an associated website, somewhere to explore, investigate, delve into the lore. Sure, most of it was marketing, but it was so much more interactive than a couple of Instagram photos. 96 also brought Hotmail, launched on July the 4th to represent freedom from ISP-based email. It was subsequently then bought by Microsoft in 97. Freedom! 97 heralded the beginning of Netflix, allowing customers to rent DVDs by mail, and in 98, Google appeared, though not that many people noticed. Other search engines were far more popular. Point is, a lot was happening. 1999 gave us the Matrix website, the Hamster Dance, and the Apple Store. Oh, let's look at that sexy translucent iMac, so nice.
Happy New Year to you at home. Let's go to Edinburgh, see what's happening there.
With The Sims launching in February 2000, an associated website was a given. Websites were just cooler back then. Behind the scenes insights, fan areas, news, a whole world outside the thing you loved. Everything felt more personable, more casual, and weirdly, more connected. 2001 brought Neopets, a community of over 20 million virtual pet owners, more than there were people on the entire web just 6 years prior. And the Simpsons site had come on a little bit as well. It was also the year that Wikipedia landed. You know, the knowledge base that everyone scoffed at because it had wrong facts. But these facts would be corrected over time, and it's still one of the most linked sites on the web. Opera's Web Rewind displays some of its knowledge base, including the Babylo Nokia, Babylo-Nokia, the supposed Nokia phone artifact dragged out of the Dark Ages, and apparent proof of an ancient technological civilization, or aliens, or something. And it was actually Opera who brought us our first full web browser on mobile. Big thanks again to them for supporting the channel. Before that point, you had to hope that there was a clunky WAP version of a website with hardly any information and devoid of graphics. It was not a fun experience. I also covered that a few years ago on my Nokia 3330. 2003's MySpace became really the first social media site to reach a global audience. Then 2004 was when the Facebook first graced or disgraced us. Their best feature, Poke, fell by the wayside, along with Pirate Talk, which my profile still uses. Yes. 2004 felt like when the internet started to mature. Flickr launched, Gmail launched, bloggers were making money through affiliate links, and the internet was becoming a way to make money, not just for the tech savvy, but for the masses.
One of the elephants. Cool thing about these guys is that they
2005 brought YouTube. The first video, me at the zoo, is now legendary.
And that's cool.
And in 2006, Twitter launched. Blog in 140 characters, simple as that. This was the same space as a phone SMS message, but with room for your Twitter username. Because sharing tweets via SMS was the future. For about a year. By 2007, websites were starting to look a lot more like websites do today. Even the Simpsons site somehow looked more modern, more accessible. Things were cleaner, more sophisticated perhaps, but we were losing an element of fun. And that's in part because Flash, the multimedia platform used by so many of the web's treasured animations,
what are you looking at?
experiences, and games had peaked, with site owners starting to choose a more universal layout, which certainly made things more straightforward, but lacked the playful richness we once knew. 2008 felt more commercialized, more dominated by big business, but excitement was coming from a new place. The App Store gave us a new way to connect to the internet. And this wasn't the only new world to open up. Minecraft launched in 2009, at least in its alpha form. And Instagram appeared because smartphone cameras were finally getting good enough to be worth sharing. In 2011, Twitch launched, spun off from Justin TV, which had started as a 24/7 live stream of one man's life, much like the coffee pot in a way. 2013's Vine epitomized where we were, 6-second looping videos. Perfectly sized for the limited 4G data of the time and immediately everyone's app of addiction. How's The Simpsons looking now? Well, not much different really. 2014 is when the web moved into your pocket for good. Mobile first became the default. Facebook brought WhatsApp, messaging quietly became the real social network, and the Ice Bucket Challenge showed that the internet had become a stage and everyone wanted their moment on it, especially if it did some good during the process.
Celebrities to your next door neighbor dumping freezing.
In 2015, autoplay crept in, subscriptions began their slow march towards your bank account, and a dress broke the internet. Blue and black, white and gold. Yes, that was over 10 years ago. And this is what the internet had become, somewhere for the entire world to argue about one thing simultaneously. 2016 was quite loud. Memes got faster, harsher. The timeline was less about what your friends are up to and more about what you would react to. And we mostly reacted to memes. Vine died probably because it was too personable and musically quietly took hold with teenagers. We just didn't know it yet. Websites weren't as important anymore. Instead, content was king. In 2017, the browser became a launcher. You weren't going on the internet, you were going on apps, even when those apps were technically websites. The subtle shift was the web used to be something you chose to do. Now it chose you. Rather than going out, exploring and finding things, the content was now coming to us. In 2019, Disney Plus launched with the streaming wars, and with Disney now owning The Simpsons following the Fox acquisition, the website quietly began its absorption into that ecosystem. A show that once had its own dedicated corner of the internet was becoming just another tile on a streaming platform. 2020, the web stopped being optional. Work, school, birthdays, funerals, it all happened there. "You're on mute" became a normal sentence, and virtual green screen backgrounds upped their quality immeasurably. TikTok, already circling, absolutely exploded as well. Its algorithm was unlike anything before it. It's still with us today. Just about. In the panic of sitting at home doing nothing, apparently NFTs also arrived. What better way to milk people sitting at home? Spend your hoarded wealth on JPEGs just before those JPEGs became worthless. In 2022, things changed and Twitter started to leave us. Almost overnight, the place felt different, and in fact it made the entire web feel different. One of the biggest communities had been upended, and it felt like being shook out of a dispenser onto a field. Go find a new way. People left, new communities formed on platforms that barely existed 6 months prior. So then, 2023. ChatGPT. Everyone, and I mean everyone, was talking about AI. Different forms of AI had existed beforehand, but then they were just called algorithms. Now, piggybacking on its success, everything was just called AI. The web was now optimized not for discovery, but for retention. Not curiosity, but compulsion. Doom scrolling stopped being a joke. It became a behavior we all now recognize in ourselves. Unfortunately, the Simpsons website is still redirecting to Disney Plus as well. The site we used as a temperature check for the state of the internet year by year, from clunky flash menus to mobile-first redesigns, is now just a button that says Stream Now. Tragic, really. And that's kind of where we are now. The web has come a long way since a camera pointed at a coffee pot, but people still want a corner that feels their own, not a rented booth governed by landlords. And it's starting to feel that maybe we need to make that on our own, just like we did with GeoCities 30 years ago. Which brings me back to Opera's Web Rewind, because what their archive does really well is show us that the web didn't just progress, it mutated. From handmade pages to corporate portals, from communities to platforms, from browsing to feeds. From look what I found to look what found me. Click through the years, spot the old layouts, the old logos, the old design crimes, and you don't just remember the sites, you remember who you were when you used them. Check out your old hoards, and while you're at it, check out the link in the description to download Opera as well. Until next time, I've been Nostalgia Nerd. Toodaloo.